What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode on the Landscaping Podcast. I am your host, Zac Small. I'm going solo today, and we're going to be talking about 5 reasons talented people are losing. So, throughout my career in the military, through writing, through my creative work, through landscaping, hardscaping, even in the school system, I have realized that there is sort of a trend here. There are reasons that people who are very talented find themselves losing, and it's a common theme throughout all those fields. So this goes beyond landscaping. This applies everywhere. You know, you see in a lot of environments, it doesn't really matter where you go, and I'm sure you've seen this as well. If you found yourself in a leadership position where you're kind of watching those around you, oftentimes if you're in the trenches and you're working, you're not paying so much attention to others. But when you start to work yourself up that ladder, you do notice people, you do notice those you're in charge of, you kind of just look around. But even if you've been in the trenches, you haven't held a leadership position, you might look at your bosses and understand, like, the people who are placed over you, they might have this trend if they find themselves not advancing. And so one of the things that I've kind of noticed here is when you talk about this stuff, it makes it aware. And so when you're aware of something, then you can start to address it. And so my goal here isn't to like nitpick people. My goal is to talk about the themes. But if you find a theme that you resonate with, like, don't just think about this like somebody else. Think about it as yourself. Think about, like, what if this is you I'm talking about? I don't have anybody in particular. Well, I've got like 20 in particular people I can think of, but there is no individual that has all these things. Like I said, I've seen this time and time again. It's played out over and over in many environments. And so I want to talk about it because I think, again, when you talk about something, people can be aware. When they're aware, they can address. And when you address it, well, then you can fix it. And for those who are watching, if you're wondering what is going on with my hair, again, I'm growing my hair out for the next year and a half roughly so I can go and donate it because I've got a lot of thick hair. It's always been a goal of mine to donate this to somebody who's dealing with alopecia or cancer treatments. And so I'm growing it out. It's only going to get more weird from here. So if you're watching the video wondering like what is going on, now you know. This is all going to get donated probably in 2027 or 2028, depending when I can hit the length needed. But that's what's going on there. So now let's dive into or actually right before we dive into the topic, if you aren't subscribed, if you're enjoying the podcast, leave a review. If you're subscribed, share it with others. We are looking to grow this. The numbers are showing that it is growing, and so that's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I'm pumped on all analytics, all the metrics as to whether like people are listening and tuning in. But if you're enjoying this, all that I ask is that you share it. Ada Priscilla, he has his message about sharing the show, and so we're dropping something similar. There's nothing I'm really asking of you outside of if you like this and we're bringing quality to you, share it. Let other people hear it. That would be awesome, and it's appreciated. So with that, 5 things that are keeping talented people from finding true success, what's causing talented people to fail or to lose, and we're going to get into number 1 right now. And that is that talented people cannot handle discomfort. A lot of people who have a great talent, they're naturally good at things. When something gets in their way that makes it uncomfortable, they don't know how to handle it. And this is where you see people who are like a natural with grades and they fly through all their schoolwork in elementary school, they fly through their schoolwork in middle school, they get through it in high school, and then when they get to college and they actually have to study, or they go to a trade school and it's actually not as easy because things get a little more complicated and they require you to slow down and kind of factor in way more variables, well, they don't know what to do because they never learned how to handle that uncomfortable feeling. And if you write out the word discomfort, those last, 6 letters, you're going to see comfort. You've got to find that comfort within that discomfort. Talented people who've been able to get by without having to develop that grit, they struggle a lot here. And I've seen a lot of great athletes. I've seen a lot of intelligent or academically gifted individuals. I've seen them run into brick walls and absolutely fail and flame out because they faced something that was hard for the first time. For the first time, their natural skills didn't get them through. And if you're in the workforce and you've always been able to be the team leader, you're the class president, you find yourself constantly rising up the ranks. Well, when you're at work and people are telling you, well, go do this, and you think you're above it, and you think, well, I don't have to work because I got to run this. I'm the one who meant to run the show. You've got to earn that. You've got to go and show that in the proving ground, and it's going to be very uncomfortable. And so one of the biggest things that keeps talented people from finding success or causing them to fail is that they never learn how to handle discomfort. They never develop the grit required to make it out in the workforce or to make it in highly competitive environments. And again, going back to college, and this is a conversation I've had with my son and several other athletes, like if you're a stud in your team, that's awesome. but you've got to work hard. No matter how talented you are, you have to develop. You must develop the work ethic required to make it at the next level, because when you get to the next level, everybody was a stud. Everybody was good. At some point, if you're good enough, you're going to find yourself on a team where everybody is great at what they do. And if you want a starting job, or if you even want to make the team, it's going to come down to who is talented and works hard. You have to have those two things. And so without that, you're going to find yourself failing, because the other ones, the other talented folks who also worked hard and developed grit, well, those are the ones that are going to crush it. And that's why I love to see we've got two athletes with us. We've got Landon Griffin and Coda Small. And those two, they are very talented baseball players, and they work extremely hard. And that blend, being able to see that play out, if you're in the green industry, if you're a landscaper or a hardscaper, your job is hard, period. Like, the job that we do itself, just the work is difficult. Never mind going to play the sport of baseball, which is a very difficult sport. And so I'm watching that play out with them, but this can go to anything. If you're out there and you're doing really well with your grades, and you're like, all right, I'm crushing it at high school, then maybe you need to be taking on extra programs, taking on extra work. Because if high school is that easy, go do something that challenges you. Go out of your way to find something that's going to challenge you mentally or physically, because you absolutely must, I can't stress this enough, you must go out and do something that is going to be hard and uncomfortable, because that is what's going to teach you who you really are and how bad you really want it. And you might find in the struggle, in that discomfort, I don't really want this. It's just easy for me. And like, you don't need to do what's easy for you throughout your entire life. Just because you're an extremely good painter doesn't mean you need to be a painter. Just because you can do math very well doesn't mean you need to be a trader or an accountant or any way. You're free to go and do what you want to do, not just what you're good at doing. I'm good at a lot of things, but I don't necessarily want to do those things. I want to do something else. And oftentimes that comes with the challenge, but I enjoy the challenge. And for me, there was a time where I was uncomfortable when I was comfortable. Meaning if I sat down at the house and I wasn't doing anything, I was like freaking out. I had to learn to find comfort in my discomfort of being comfortable. And I know that's a little esoteric. I know that's a little out there. But I'm sure if you're listening to this, you understand that feeling, especially if you're a mother or father, when you're at the house and you sit down on the couch and your brain starts to tell you all the other things you're supposed to be doing. That is an uncomfortable feeling, because you feel like you're being lazy or you're not doing enough. And what I've learned through just going through and figuring things out and doing the work on myself, my inner work, is that it's okay to be relaxed. It's okay to be uncomfortable in that moment and to just say, hey, I'm relaxing right now. I'm not doing anything. And that's actually me finding comfort in discomfort. If you're a talented individual, you've got to do that same thing. That weird voice that goes up in your head, you've got to tell it, like, chill out. Like, right now I'm going to do the hard thing, or I'm going to push myself in this area. If you don't do that, you will get surpassed. And you're going to find out, like, all the talent that you had meant nothing. You're going to go out and you're going to fail in the world. You're not going to know why. And I'm telling you right now, it's because you never developed grit. You never did anything hard. You never put yourself in a position where you had to be challenged. You were just so talented going through. You just had that skill, that God-given ability to just do the thing that you never worked in. Like, how can you get better at doing the thing when it's hard to do the thing? You've got to develop that. So 1, that was handling discomfort. 2, talented people don't have goals. You can be the best singer in the world. You can be the best artist in the world. You can be the best photographer. You can be the best whatever. If you don't have any goals, then you have no compass for what actions to take. And so you start to fail, because people who aren't as talented, I often say smart thinkers are beaten by dumb doers daily. And what I mean by that is, no matter how smart you are and how much you're thinking, the person who's actually going out and doing things, they're going to win. I have beaten people much more successful. Not successful. I have beaten people much more intelligent than myself by being somebody who works harder and therefore finding success. So they're more intelligent, I'm more successful. What would you rather be? Would you rather be the dude who's like, I'm so smart, look how smart I am? Or the dude who's living his best life and achieving the goals that he's set? Because it's awesome for you to sit from the chair and say, well, I'm smarter than him. Yeah, but you don't have anything that person has. Like, what have you really attained outside of like your self-congratulatory, pompous air of like being better than? Like, you've got to go out and prove it in the world. And so when it comes to having goals and talented people, if you've got talent but no goals, you're just sending energy out into the world. You're going to be beaten by those who have specific goals and specific tasks that they're working towards. So I've got plenty of goals in my life that I'm working on, and I constantly take a step towards. When I wake up, I don't wonder, like, what do I need to do today? Who am I today? What's my purpose? I don't ever ask those questions because I have so many goals. It's just like, which ones am I working on now? Like, what are the immediate goals? What are the long-term goals? Find that little hybrid where I'm achieving my small goals on the way to the bigger goal. For you, no matter what you have, no matter what you're able to do, no matter how talented you are, if you have not set any goals for yourself, then you wake up aimless. You don't have a compass as to why you should be doing what you're doing. Because at the end of the day, the food that you eat, the actions that you take, the hobbies that you have, the places that you go, they're either bringing you closer to the life you want to live or they're bringing you further from the life that you want to live. And so with this second step, like here's my advice to you. If you don't know how to answer this, write down 3 goals you want to achieve within the next 3 months. So you write down like within the next 3 months, I want to get a pay raise, lose some weight, and I want to start this hobby. I want to create a blog and I want to start writing. These are just coming out of my head. Like I have no idea. I've done most of these things, which is pretty cool. But so under each of those goals, write down 3 actions. So for the blog one, let's say you want to be a writer, you want to start writing and sharing your story. Well, you wrote down within the next 3 months, so the next 90 days roughly, I want to have a blog out in the world. Under that, I want you to write down 3 goals. 3 actions you're going to take for that goal. So 1, I'm going to go and get a website. You know, I'm gonna claim a name. There's a name that I want for this. It's gonna be called Zac's Writing. All right, cool. Second action, I'm gonna start to write down all the topics and ideas that are in my head, the things I want to talk about in a list. 3, I'm gonna pick one of those. I'm gonna write about it and I'm gonna publish it. And so for me, I could talk about running a landscaping podcast, how to create it. Okay, I want to start a blog. I'm gonna start a blog called Zac's Podcasting Advice. It's gonna be zacsadvice.com. Here's all the things I want to write about. I'm going to pick landscaping podcast. Cool. I'm going to write a blog about how you can run a podcast for your landscaping company. Bam. Now I did the thing. When I woke up, I had a goal. I want to do this. When I went through my day, I had free time. Well, what am I going to do with it? Well, I'm going to write. You start to give yourself the path to success by writing down what it is that you want to do. And to do that, you've got to have your goals. So when talented people don't have goals, they're just talented people that aren't really achieving or moving their life in the direction they want to go because there's no direction they want to go because they have no goal. Set those goals for yourself and you'll find that your talent can be put to use and you're going to find success in life. You're going to find yourself living the life that it is that you want to live. All right, so we've spoken about discomfort, we've spoken about goals. Now we're going to talk about one of the biggest ones, and that is entitlement. I'm not taking this from the position where everybody thinks that the kids these days are so entitled. That's not what I'm saying. Entitlement has been around forever. This is not a new thing. This is just a thing. And it is something that I have seen, like I said, in every field that I have worked in. From military to current day landscaping, hardscaping. People feel entitled to things that they haven't attained. They believe that they deserve recognition. They deserve praise. They deserve promotion. They deserve raises. They deserve the titles. They deserve all these things that come with whatever their position is in the workforce. You know, they want the new desk or they want the new parking spot or whatever it is that they have. They believe that they deserve it, but when you ask them why, well, just because. Because what? Because you did your job? To get more, to rise the ranks, you've got to do more than the minimum. And individuals who are talented, they have gotten praise for so long in their life that they forgot, like, you actually have to measure up to a metric when you're compared to others. It's similar. I do a lot of work with men and just becoming their best self. I've written a book called 31 Days to Masculinity, and it's a 31-day program to help you kind of go through and break yourself down as a man to rebuild yourself up, to ensure that you're living your best life and you're being true about it. And one of the things I mention is a lot of men, they have this entitled, like, I'm the king, I'm in charge. And it's because, well, I make the money and I'm the strongest one in the house. And it's like, all right, so you're stronger than your wife and your children, and you're like the only dude, so therefore, like, you're the quote unquote king. But when you go out with other men, how do you rank? Are you stronger than them? Are you doing more work than them? Are you a better leader than them? Because if you're not, well, then maybe this air of, like, you are the king is like you're like the fake king. You're like the broke king or the joke king or the jester and not the king. Because when you compare yourself to your peers, you're actually not doing as well as you are when you compare yourself to others who aren't in your field. And so when you're talented, you might go through school and, like, the teacher's like, oh, you're such a great student. You know, you passed your test really well. And then you come to landscaping and you're smart, you're intelligent. You might be smarter than everybody. You might be smarter than your supervisor, but you don't know how to properly maintain the lawn or use the equipment. You don't have the work ethic to actually carry the pavers all day long. You get tired really fast. You don't know how to cut the bricks. And so because you're smarter in most areas, you think that you deserve, well, I should be running the show. But in all reality, you can't do this job the way that the others can do the job. So while your intelligence is great, this entitled air of you deserve more, even though you're not doing more, like there's like a false reality going on here. It's like not a cognitive bias, but it's like almost like a complete disassociation from reality. You are smart, but you're not the best at your job. I'm a smart dude, but there's no way I'm going to go to like a tree logging company and tell them I should be running the show because I don't know anything about tree logging. Or a buddy of mine, he runs a steel mill. Bro, I've led hundreds of men. I am a great speaker. I'm an awesome human. I've run organizations. I've run programs. I've stood in front of thousands. Like, I have done a lot. I'm not going to walk into a steel mill and say I should be running the show because look at all the other stuff I did. You got to know the job. You're not entitled to all this stuff because of what you did in your past. Like, that got you to where you are. That's not going to get you to where you're going. So if you want to go further, you got to stop with this entitlement and humble yourself a little bit to understand you've got plenty to learn. Talented people who their whole lives haven't had to deal with that, nobody's ever said that to them, they have a really hard time with this because it's almost like a slap in the face. They almost view it as an insult that people aren't kissing their butt when their whole lives people have kissed their butt. They've always said, like, you're the man, you're the best, you're the one amongst all of us who's like the king. You run the show, you're awesome, I want to be your friend, you're popular. And it's like you finally get to the real world where the work is hard and you've got to prove yourself, and they don't know how to do that. They don't know how to like bring themselves down and be like, I've got more to learn here. I'm not the man here. I'm not the best here. I've got to step back and actually position myself to where I'm actually following instead of leading. And oftentimes the best leaders, those who can lead the absolute best, they're the ones who know how to follow. They're the ones who know how to support others. They're like the rising tide, instead of the rocket ship. A rocket ship sends itself up. A rising tide lifts everybody around you. When you work in a company, when you work as a part of an organization, people are looking at the one who picks everybody up and knows how to take care of the team and not just take care of themselves. And so entitlement, that is a huge, huge issue. And it's one that I really hope if you're listening to this, you can reflect on yourself and say, hey, is it my job that's not appreciating me? Or am I not being appreciated because I'm not actually doing that well in this job? I'm not doing all the things that's required to find success and growth and to thrive in that environment. And that actually leads sort of into part 4. So part 4 is poor role models. And this is something that I've seen. I do a lot of work with young men, and most of our conversations, they kind of center around like, well, what are you looking at? What's your example? And so that brings us to part 4. So we've done handling discomfort, we've done not having goals, we've done entitlement, and here part 4 of what is keeping talented people stuck and causing talented people to fail and get beaten by others who might be less talented is they have poor role models. If you've grown up and your whole life you have thought that you were owed something, or you've watched role models of men or women who tried to game the system, or they always spoke about how like, working a job is like failing and somehow you should be running your own business, or that the government or society is trying to hold you down because of your gender, because of your race, because of your religion. If those are your role models, well, then that's what you're basing everything on. And so when you fail, you're going to say, it's because I'm a woman or because I'm a man. It's because I'm white or black or Chinese or Spanish. You're going to blame everything else because that's what you've watched adults do. In the same way, and this goes a little bit to fatherhood, but if you come home as an adult man and you complain about your job and you crack open a beer and you kick your feet up, but you tell your kids you need to train for your sports and you need to study for your school, it's like you're showing them you need to do these things until you're an adult. And when you're an adult, you complain about your job, you drink booze, and then you eat food and you relax all the time. And that's what your life is when you're an adult. And so work hard as a kid, as an adult, sit and complain. That's the example you're setting for children. And so if that's the example that was set for you, well, that's what you think is normal. You think that it's normal to complain about everything, to have a hard time with everything, that it's always somebody else's fault, that you never have to own the situation, and that all the bad things that have happened is because somebody else and not you. If that's what the role models have shown for you, like that is why you are losing, even though you've got all the talent in the world. You simply cannot get out of your own way because the model as to what reality looks like, the box that you've been placed in by the examples of the adults around you, It has you thinking and operating that way. And that is one of the most frustrating things in the world. And it's something that I, as a mentor in my community, have had to learn. It's like I look at these kids and I'm like, you guys just don't know any better. You're not bad kids. There are no such things as bad kids. Kids are products of their environment. If you think that you have a bad kid, I'm going to look at you as the parent and say you're a bad parent. Because if you're saying that that kid's bad, well, they're a product of what you've shown them. They're a product of how you've raised them. So when people are like looking at the kids these days, I'm like, look at the parents these days. Look at the adults these days. The kids are rising or falling to the standard that you've shown them. My kids are freaking crushing it. And so I'm like, I'm doing a pretty good job. So don't say the kids these days, because my kids aren't like those kids. Mine are trying hard and they're pushing themselves. A lot of the kids out there trying hard and pushing themselves, almost always their parents are doing the same. Their parents are pushing themselves and trying hard. But that's not always the case. And so there are individuals, there are young men and women in this environment of the workforce that are coming up here, and they've got this sense of like society's trying to hold them down and that none of it's their fault. And in all reality, it's at their feet. They're not showing up early. They're not asking for extra work. They always feel like they deserve a raise, but they deserve extra while doing less. It doesn't make sense, but honestly, it stems from having poor role models. And so the role models, the impact of these adults in your life or your friend circle, if you're an adult, that's going to play a huge role in your success. And if you're a talented individual, you're going to waste all that talent being angry and frustrated that you're not getting recognized, even though you're not doing enough to be recognized. And so those role models, that's really an issue, and it's unfortunate because that's probably the hardest one to break, because that's the framework of your reality. Like, that is how you think the world works. And it's hard to break that, especially if you're a supervisor in a supervisor position. There are new guys coming in and I'll talk to them and I try to explain to them like, yo, like, this could be the greatest career of your life. But if you can't like figure out that nobody is trying to hold you down and nobody has an agenda out to get you, if you can't get out of that world, like, you're just going to sabotage this. And all the raises you could have had, all the certifications you could have had, the licenses, like, Shay is happy to send people to school if they're the right candidate to go to that school. And if you can't show up to work on time or do things like that, like, we can't give you extra. And so it's like, you are talented enough to do this, but you're not reliable. And you've got this like attitude that somebody's out to get you, and that's not going to work out in the position that's needed. And so it's like you're sabotaging your own career, and that sucks, because there are a lot of talented people out there that they're going to keep on having a reset, and they're going to come into Landscaping Unlimited, leave Landscaping Unlimited, go somewhere else, leave somewhere else, go somewhere else, leave somewhere else. The cycle is going to continue until they either find a way to game the system and they end up with whatever situation they can find themselves in where they're satisfied, or they're just going to be disgruntled for the end of their days. And they're going to be complaining about the same thing when they're 40, they're 50, they're 60. They're just going to be complaining, and it's all because the role models set a really poor foundation for them to build themselves upon. And for whatever reason, they couldn't get themselves out of it. All right, so handling discomfort, no goals, entitlement, poor role models. Number 5, coddling to the point of thinking that hard equals bad. This kind of like sums up all the other stuff combined and put together. When you think that challenges are bad, you are going to fail. There is no way around it. No matter how talented you are, if you think that when something is hard, it's a bad thing that should be avoided, you are going to lose. And you are going to continue to lose. Hardship is a good thing. When bad things happen, I'm like Jocko Willink. I'm like, good. I'm glad that bad thing happened. It showed me that I've got to try harder. I'm glad I failed. Nobody wants to fail, but when I failed, I'm like, all right, well, I tried, but now I know why I failed. When stuff gets in the way, I get to prove, how bad do I want this? Like, everybody wants to say they're tough, but when tough things happen and they crumble, or they run away, or they get angry, or their emotions run it, well, then you're not tough. So why do you tell yourself that you are? When you think that, well, this is hard, I don't like it, man, that's exactly why you should do it, because you're soft where that thing is hard. You know why I don't have a lot of like challenges in my life? Because nothing bothers me, so I don't view it as a challenge. I view these as opportunities. Yeah, there are things that are very difficult to do. There are things I've had to face that are enormously complicated, emotionally tolling. Like, there are nights where I've had those nights where you are by yourself, alone with your thoughts, thinking like, I am failing. I'm not getting it right. I'm not doing good as a husband, as a father, as a worker, as a business owner, whatever it is. You have those thoughts and you've got to sit there with them. You're like, oh man, this is hard. Like, why does it have to be so difficult? But then you get up and you push forward and you just keep on going. You don't let it break you. Talented people who run away when things get hard, or they take off and they get frustrated when anything's difficult, that is you'll never be able to overcome that. Challenge means you're going and you're growing. You cannot grow if something is not pushing you into an uncomfortable area, and it's not a bad thing. It is not bad that something bad happened. That is just life. It is not a bad thing that when somebody pushes you to do more, they're trying to get maximum potential from you. They're asking the questions that you might want to avoid, but it's within those difficult questions that you're going to find your best self. Why are you the way that you are? Who are you? Are you able to answer those difficult questions? This is why I don't believe that politics are off limits, religion, money. I don't think those are taboo subjects we should avoid. I think that's what we should talk about. And if you're uncomfortable talking about money, then I should ask you, why are your finances not in a place where you're comfortable speaking about them? You're probably embarrassed by the money situation that you're in, or you don't know anything about it, and so you feel like you're out of your league. And same thing with politics, and same thing with religion. When you ask people questions about their faith, or you ask them about their political stance, it's like they're not educated on it enough to feel comfortable speaking about it, so they get frustrated. Who are you to question me on this? Like, man, that's exactly why I should question you on it. How come I can ask you questions about TV but not God? It doesn't make sense. How come I can ask you what is your preference on this sports team, but I can't talk to you about the leaders that you're talking about who are running the country? Like, why are we so comfortable talking about the little things, about the things that matter, the things that are important? We don't want to discuss those, when that's exactly what we should be discussing, because those are the things that actually matter in life. Not that politics matter, because that's all made up, but the fact is, we should be able to speak about these things that are important to us, and we can't because it's hard. And people don't like to talk about or do hard things. They run away from it. They think it's bad because it's uncomfortable. And to bring us all the way back to the first step, you should be comfortable being uncomfortable. Find success in like just sitting there and be like, you know what? This is a difficult conversation, but I'm happy to be a part of it. When you can do that, you're going to find that as a talented individual, you're going to go much further in life because you welcome hardship. So you're happy when the days are the sun's shining and life is good and the breeze is blowing, and you're just as happy when it's raining sideways, things are muddy and you're cold, because it's just life and you understand that. So I hope this helps you. I hope for my talented folks listening, this kind of plants some seeds that might sprout and give you some ideas to think about later on. Again, if you've enjoyed the podcast, make sure you're sharing it. I've enjoyed having this discussion, and again, it has to do with the green industry because it has to do with people, and that's what this is all about. So I appreciate you, my people, tuning into the podcast, and I hope to have helped you in some way or another. You guys stay well, and my talented folks, please keep getting after it. Do not let yourself have all that talent within you just to be wasted because you didn't figure a few small pieces out. You've got the hard part figured out, which is being naturally good at something. It's easy to just step back and start figuring out these other pieces. So do that. If you have any questions, please reach out.